Over the past year, Pokemon Pocket has introduced some of the most creative and competitive grass-type Pokemon we've seen in the entire game. From fan favorites reimagined into powerful EX variants to some brand new meta-defining cards. And today, we're counting down the top 10 grass-type Pokemon from the entire Series A era. Whether you're building for ranked or just love grass Pokemon, this list is your ultimate guide to the best of the best. Let's dive right in. Going in order of release and starting off our list is one of the earliest Grass EX cards in Pokemon Pocket, the Triple Threat Tropical Menace Exeggutor EX. With 160 HP and a single attack, you might think it's basic, but don't be fooled because Tropical Swing hits for 40 damage and flips for 40 more. And while that might seem a little coin flippy at first glance, here's why it actually works. Exeggutor EX fits perfectly into early game aggro decks that want to apply pressure fast. It evolves quickly and only needs one grass energy to attack, and has a 50-50 chance to swing for 80 damage by turn 2. That's huge when most early Pokemon are still trying to set up. Now, it is a little gamba, but in this game, flipping for 80 on a 1 energy attack is an aggressive tempo play that forces your opponents to react. And if they don't have their basics set up or miss a supporter card, well, Exeggutor EX just snowballs. And what makes this card special isn't just the damage, it's the efficiency. Grass decks in early Series A needed consistent low-cost attackers, and Exeggutor EX filled that gap perfectly. Now, it's not the strongest EX in the format, but for a grass type that can punish weak starts, deliver early knockouts, and pressure prize points, it's definitely earned its spot. Next up is Venusaur EX, a fan favorite that brings stability, bulk, and healing to grass type decks. With a beefy 190 HP, this stage 2 tank is built to last and designed to wear opponents down over time. Its first attack, Razor Leaf, is a simple 60 for 3 energy, nothing too flashy here, but it's reliable when you need early damage while still setting up. Because the real value comes from its second attack, Giant Bloom. For only 2 grass and 2 colorless, it deals 100 damage and heals 30 from itself every time it attacks. That built-in healing creates a natural loop that makes Venusaur EX incredibly sticky in slower matchups. It's hard to take down in one shot, and even if you chip it down, the healing offsets a lot of damage. Combined with healing supporters like Erica or even defensive tools, Venusaur can easily stay in the game for multiple turns, forcing your opponents to commit heavy resources just to try and clear it. Now, while it doesn't have an ability or any flashy combos, Venusaur EX was a cornerstone for control and mid-range grass decks in the early game's meta. Its consistency, survivability, and ability to outlast glass cannon attackers gave it a vital role in decks that wanted to grind out wins but not rush them. It's a floral wall, and in the right hands, it's a win condition all on its own, which is why Venusaur EX earns its place by simply refusing to go down. Now let's talk about Celebi EX. It might look small, but this card can deliver some of the biggest surprise knockouts in the game, if you're lucky, that is. Sitting at 130 HP, this basic Pokemon makes its mark with just 1 attack, Powerful Bloom. For 1 grass and 1 colorless, you flip a coin for each energy attached to Celebi, not just grass energy, any type of energy. And each time you get heads, that deals 50 damage, which means with just 3 energy attached to this Celebi EX, you've got a high rolling attacker capable of spiking for 150, or more if you keep attaching energy. Now, this is a very risky and potentially game-breaking playstyle. In fact, I won a tournament using this Pokemon back when Mythical Island first came out. You can check out the video here in the corner, but don't do that now, of course. Now, Celebi EX thrives in decks that can flood energy onto a single Pokemon quickly, more recently with the addition of baby Pokemon that can ramp Celebi because technically it's a basic Pokemon. And once the energy is there, Powerful Bloom becomes a gamble with massive payoff, one-shotting threats your opponents thought were safe. However, it's not consistent, not even the slightest. And it's definitely not safe. But in the right hands, Celebi EX becomes a very high-risk, high-reward card that can flip entire games in a single attack. but we can't really talk about Celebi EX without talking about our next Pokemon on today's list. And that's Serperior, who doesn't rely on brute force and instead it empowers your entire board with one of the strongest utility abilities grass decks have ever seen. With just 110 HP, it's clearly not built for battle, but its presence on the bench is game-changing thanks to its ability, Jungle Totem. Jungle Totem doubles the output of every grass energy attached to your grass Pokemon. That means one grass energy counts as two, letting you power up attackers faster, chain combos more efficiently, and pull off explosive turns with half the cost, making this Pokemon a terrific partner for that Celebi EX we just got done talking about. Now, the ability doesn't stack, but that's rarely a problem. One Serperior is more than enough to supercharge your setup and shift tempo of the game entirely. It's a dream engine card for evolution decks that need time and resources to stabilize. I'm talking about you, Venu, or for combo decks that rely on specific energy counts to pop off. That's Celebi. And its attack Solar Beam is a flat 70 for 2 energy because of its own ability, which makes it a perfect one-hit counter to that pesky yellow chicken Oricorio that might be there to stop your other grass-type EX Pokemon. All in all, Serperior is a keystone for energy-focused strategies and one of the most enabling grass cards from Series A. And for what it brings to your board, not just itself, it absolutely deserves a spot. Next up is Leafeon EX, which brings speed and setup power to any grass deck. And in a game where tempo wins matches, that's a massive edge. With 140 HP and a solid single attack, Leafeon EX already looks decent on paper, but its real strength is its ability, Forest Breath. Once during your turn, if Leafeon is in the active spot, you can take a grass energy from your energy zone and attach it to any of your grass Pokemon. That means Leafeon isn't just a pivot attacker, it's also an engine. It accelerates your board for free every single turn it's in the active spot. And unlike some other energy accelerating abilities that require multiple cards to enable their effect, Leafeon EX is just a stage 1 Pokemon, meaning if you can get Leafeon into the active spot, you're fueling your attackers without burning supporters or precious energy. Its attack Solar Beam deals 70 damage for 3 energy, which is respectable, especially when you're using Leafeon's ability to power up your next threat behind the scenes. It plays beautifully into decks that like to rotate attackers or spread energy across multiple Pokemon. Now, Leafeon EX isn't flashy, but it's fast, efficient, and enables some of the strongest grass combos in the game. In a format where energy acceleration is key, especially from the first set, Leafeon EX definitely earns its spot being one of the most reliable ramp options grass has ever had. Halfway through, and now it's time to check out Meowscarada, the sleek, stylish, and absolutely savage EX Slayer. With 140 HP and a 2 energy attack cost, this stage 2 may seem modest, but its damage output tells a very different story. Its lone attack Fighting Claws hits for 60 damage, but if your opponent's active Pokemon is an EX, that damage jumps by 70, turning it into a clean 130 damage strike for just 2 grass energy. Now that's an incredibly efficient punish tech, especially in a meta where EX Pokemon are everywhere. And Meowscarada doesn't even need coin flips, energy tricks, or complicated combos. It's a straightforward check to the format's biggest threats. The moment your opponent promotes an EX like, oh yeah, we're ramping this guy, Meowscarada's ready to swing and take a huge prize. And what makes it even better is it has a basic stage Sprigatito, which can search for itself, helping you thin out your deck while also getting closer to getting Meowscarada online, having very useful evolutionary synergy. It's fast, it's precise, and it preys on the very cards that dominate the entire format. For its unmatched efficiency in countering EX Pokemon, Meowscarada definitely earns its place. Now let's talk about Decadui EX, a master in precision, picking off weakened targets and turning chip damage into devastating knockouts. With 170 HP and a dual attack setup, this stage 2 offers both pressure and utility, but its first attack, Pierce the Pain, Well, that truly defines its role. For just 2 colorless energy, Pierce the Pain does 100 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon that already has damage on it, which is insane. That means anything that's been poked or pinged earlier in the game becomes a liability the moment Decidueye hits the board. This synergy makes Decidueye EX the perfect closer for decks that run snipers, which can attack benched Pokemon, which both its pre-evolutionary stages can actually do. And once you've softened up the board, this awesome owl steps in and just finishes the job. Its second attack, Razor Leaf, deals 80 damage for 2 grass energy, which is respectable, but not the reason you run this card. Decidueye EX is a tactical weapon, and its value comes from disrupting your opponent's setup and denying them time to recover. With great HP, a low retreat cost, and one of the best sniping moves in the grass arsenal, it definitely finds itself being one of the best grass Pokemon introduced in Series A. Now let's talk about Buzzwole EX, a pure raw muscle basic attacker built for fast pressure and heavy swings. With 140 HP and no need to evolve, this Ultra Beast brings the pain the second it hits the board. Its first attack, Punch, is a simple 30 damage for 2 colorless, not game breaking, but a safe early play when you're still setting up. The real threat is Big B, dealing a massive 120 damage for just 2 grass and 1 colorless. Now that's enough to knock out most support Pokemon and put some serious pressure on even bulky EX Pokemon. However, there is a drawback. Buzzwole can't use Big B back to back, but with the help of other Ultra Beast and supporter cards, you can work around that easily. In fact, Buzzwole often pairs with pivot attackers or cards that let you reset its attack condition and keep swinging like Celesteela or the supporter Lusamine. Now, if your playstyle is more about dominating the board and overwhelming your opponent before they can stabilize, well then Buzzwole EX is the muscle you bring. For that unmatched burst damage and aggressive presence, and I'm not just talking about the muscles, that alone is why it absolutely deserves a spot. Next up is the newer Jumpluff EX, which may look cute and unassuming, but it plays a critical role in tempo-based decks by blending speed, damage, and control into one deceptively strong Stage 2 card. With 160 HP and just 1 energy required to attack, Jumpluff EX thrives on efficiency. Its Breeze By attack deals 70 damage for a single colorless energy, which means it can fit into almost any deck. But what makes it exceptional is the added effect. After attacking, you can switch Jumpluff with one of your benched Pokemon. This hit and run style of play lets you pressure your opponents without exposing your EX to retaliation. You get in, deal a solid chunk of damage, and retreat safely, maybe even retreating into something like, I don't know, an Oricorio that can checkmate your opponent's opposing EX Pokemon. It pairs extremely well with cards that activate while on the bench and decks that cycle attackers quickly. It also creates constant movement in the match, forcing your opponent to overcommit just to keep up with the board control. However, Jumpluff EX isn't a closer, and it's not here to dominate the game on its own, so to speak, but more as a piece of a larger puzzle. It's one of the smoothest pivots in Grass's arsenal, enabling reactive plays, protecting your prize points, and keeping pressure up turn after turn, which is why it floats comfortably into its spot in today's video. Now it's time to round out our list with a deceptively powerful basic Pokemon that has one of the most disruptive effects in the entire Grass archetype, and that's Celebi, the non-EX counterpart. With only 70 HP and a single attack, it doesn't look like much at first, but its move Temporal Leaves does something few cards in the game can. It devolves your opponent's active Pokemon. For just 2 grass energy, it deals 40 damage and forces any evolved active Pokemon to return their highest stage evolution to their hand. Now, against current decks that depend on the item card rare candy to evolve, this potentially strands them without having the necessary evolutionary tools to do it again, leaving them vulnerable or completely breaking their tempo. But where Celebi is about to shine is the next series of cards, specifically with Mega Pokemon. Mega Evolutions are built around stacking power on top of evolutions, and with Temporal Leaves, Celebi can force those Mega forms to vanish, undoing your opponent's setup and giving you a crucial window to retake control. Not only that, but if they use their resources to evolve, all of that can just start unraveling in a single turn. So yeah, Celebi might be frail, but its disruptive power makes it an incredible tech card. It doesn't need to dominate the board, it just needs to show up at the right time and reset your opponent's entire game plan. And with Mega Pokemon entering the format soon, this time-traveling Pokemon might just become one of the most valuable techs in competitive Pokemon. Thanks for watching this countdown of the top 10 grass Pokemon from Series A. Let me know which ones carried your matches and which cards you think will shine even brighter in the next series. See you guys in the next top 10.